Welcome to the Regenerative Care Appointment, which we've called Beyond the Line. This is the second in a series of educational classes that we have for you in your journey of understanding and experience of chiropractic. The outcome for this session is for you to gain a deeper understanding of health and how you can create it. This will set the scene for you to make better choices and achieve even better health outcomes for yourself and your family. We acknowledge you for having reached this point, for having completed the initial phase of your care. This is an indication of your commitment to allowing your body to reach a higher level of function. The observation is, at this point in time, about 40% of the population is actively involved in being healthy. There is an increasing focus in society on exercise, eating better, stress modification, and generally living a healthier lifestyle, and we are sure that you are part of that movement. So let's review what health is. The definition of health, as described by Dorland's Medical Dictionary, is a state of optimum physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. So there's a lot more to being healthy than not being sick. There's a lot more to being healthy than just being above the line. If you recall from the chart from the last class, we described the journey to this point as one of stabilisation care, which had as its goal, 1, the stabilisation of the primary subluxation complexes, and 2, to see you moving away from the symptoms that drove you in to see us. Today is about the next stage, which is the phase of regenerative care. This is the phase which supports the body's rebuilding process. This ultimately leads us to be eligible for the optimisation phase. Chiropractic colleges came together around the world to come up with a consensus definition for subluxation, a word you've been hearing about in your journey through care up until now. Their consensus definition was a complex of functional and/or structural and/or pathological articular changes that compromise neural integrity and may influence organ system function and general health. Science recognises the subluxation complex as a major block to our body's ability to create health. In normal function, the brain cell sends messages to the tissue cells, and the tissue cells sends messages back to the brain cell. If a subluxation intervenes, it creates interference to that pathway of communication. Subluxation can occur at many levels. It could happen in the lower parts of the spine and may affect the spine structure and organ function in that region. It could happen in the brainstem, in which case it would affect the major control systems of the person's vital organs. It could happen in the cerebellum, which would affect balance, fine muscle movement, cognition and learning. Or it could happen in the cortex. This may cause pressure on the brain, either from spinal stretching or from localised pressure on cranial bones or the upper cervical spine. This may result in disrupted cognitive and emotional functioning and therefore a distorted view of reality. The last area is feedback from the cells of the body themselves, because sick and decaying tissues cause a toxic effect on the nerve system. This in turn can result in subluxation. So you can see that subluxation can occur in many different regions and from many different sources. Subluxation will affect nerve function every time. Nerve function in turn will affect the cell function, and obviously cell function will affect your well-being. The evidence of subluxation can be seen by many different technologies that chiropractors utilise. In this case, we will view an X-ray. Here we have a normal architecture of the side of a person's neck. You can see the person's cervical spine from the side. See the jaw and the back of their head, and here are the shoulders. You will notice that there is a green dotted line. This indicates the preferred shape for this region. You'll also notice that the disc spaces are nice and wide. The bone substance is an even shade of grey. Now let's put this normal spine under a sped-up time frame of progressive subluxation degeneration. As we watch, it will distort and break down. You'll notice that as the normal cervical curve is lost, we get what we call phase 1. Whilst the disc and bone substances are still in the range of normal, we find that the architecture has been changed. This alters the load bearing, which causes irritation to the whole spinal cord. Research tells us that if a person's head is projected forward just 20 millimetres, it increases the work that the support muscles at the back of the neck have to do by a factor of 10. Uncorrected, the subluxation complex continues relentlessly and progressively into phase 2. In phase 2, you'll notice the little outgrowths of bone. When the spine is not functioning properly, these projections of calcium start to appear as the body tries its best attempt to stop the irritation. And so you can see the further progression into phase 3 and 4. In phase 3, the vertebrae have degenerated and are nearly joined together. Phase 4 is total fusion of the vertebrae, rendering the person to a very limited functional capacity. Now let's look at what causes subluxation, so that you know how to help yourself stem or reverse the process of decay. We have two phenomena at play that we referred to in the pre-care class. These are stressors and resistance. Looking at it now from the chiropractic perspective, we recognise that there are certain universal forces or stressors with which we live. The forces of gravity, temperature, electromagnetic forces, chemistry and the like are universal forces. At the same time, we have innate forces that oppose the universal forces and resist. Innate forces are the forces within all living things that keep life flourishing. When the universal forces exceed the innate forces, the body has to compensate in some way, and that's often where subluxations are born. As we discussed previously, the universal forces can be divided into 3 common forms. Chemical forces. Every chemical you're exposed to either helps or harms you. Obviously, habits like smoking, drinking, drugs, whether pushed or prescribed, have an effect on your nerve system. And also the more subtle things like the foods you eat, the environment you live in, and the substances you put on your skin all can be stressors on your body. The mental forces. Every thought you have has a physical effect. Your mind can't distinguish between an event that is real and one that is imagined. And it starts young. Even the effect on the unborn child when a mother is angry, sad, fearful, has a significant effect on the developing baby's brain and nerve system. 21st century life is bombarding you with mental stimuli that your brain, nerve system and body have to deal with. Physical forces are quite obvious. Commonly, the first dramatic force that most of us will endure is our gestation and then the birth process itself. As you grow and develop, we are constantly encountering stresses and physical insults that will have an impact on the body. At the same time, we have innate forces. Innate forces are what allows cells to multiply, children to grow, flowers to bloom, and animals to express their life. Innate forces always seek expansion and betterment of the living form. The innate drive is for us to grow, prosper, and live with the universal forces. When the universal forces are balanced by the innate forces, we have a condition of homeostasis. In other words, when innate is expressing itself to the best of its ability and the universal forces aren't greater than the innate forces, then the cells of the body can function healthfully in the way they are designed to. However, if the innate forces start to succumb or the universal forces increase, we end up with a compromised function of the cells. As the innate forces reduce, we find that cellular function gets less and less and less. So here we have a very impoverished cell with a very low life spark in the presence of normal universal forces. The cell doesn't have much of a chance of functioning or surviving. That's where regenerative care comes in. The goal of regenerative care is to facilitate the repair and remodelling of the cells, tissues and organs by optimising structure and nerve system function. Now, many would say that the process of healthcare is one of healing. We would dispute that. The observation is that cells, organs and glands don't heal, they regenerate, they regrow, they replace themselves. In this journey there is a consideration of time. Hering's law states that all cure starts within and goes out, from the head down and in the reverse order from when the symptoms have appeared. In other words, the memory of all the traumas we've ever had in our lifetime are encoded within our body. So when our body starts to regenerate, it begins from above down, inside out, and in the reverse order to which symptoms originally appeared. For example, when we take a journey in the car from point A to point B, we pass certain landmarks along the way. These can be likened to accidents, injuries and trauma. On the return journey, that is, from point B to point A, we will pass the same landmarks in reverse. You'll notice that this journey is not a straight line. We have periods of improved function followed by a period of change, which is often recognised as a previous hurt, injury or disease, which the body memory has uncovered. This is called unwinding or retracing and is quite commonly experienced throughout the regenerative care process. Sometimes people feel upset and despondent during these times as they feel they are losing their gains, but don't worry. Together we'll go through these necessary steps and your process of regeneration will continue. The process of correcting subluxations is, as you know, through the use of adjustments. Adjustments are designed to assist the body in correcting structure where the body has been unable to do so. Better structure leads to better function and regeneration of our bodies. In the case of phase 1, the spinal shape has been lost, but the discs and bones have not been destroyed. In the journey back, we notice that the body would then start to take on better posture. That is one of the outcomes of regenerative care. If a person has been unfortunate enough to have had uncorrected subluxation over a long term and has phase 2, 3 or 4, then the best that we can hope for is to prevent further decay, and we also expect that function will significantly improve. If there has been uncorrected subluxation that's been progressing relentlessly over time and the person is in phase 2, we do expect some changes in the soft tissues. Here is an example of a case where the person had, as a result of an accident, severely damaged his low back. He had lost the use of his legs, bowel and bladder control. You can see that between the 4th and 5th lumbar vertebrae there is significantly irritated nerve substance and cord pressure. This is how he was when he first came to chiropractic care. Over a period of time, he received adjustments on a very regular basis, beginning with daily. The intention was not to just relieve the pain, but to allow the body to start to correct itself and start to regenerate. You see the second photo there? You'll notice that the disc protrusion has pulled back and the spinal cord is once again full and functioning. This takes pressure off the entire spinal cord system. How long do you think this would take? In this case, it was 15 to 18 months. The second film was taken 15 months after the first film. An adjustment assists the body in its process of self-correction by influencing the nerve system. The nervous system affects the cells, organs and glands, and the cells, organs and glands affect the body chemistry. The body chemistry, in turn, affects our well-being. The process of regeneration is a process that allows innate to rebuild and recreate. An ecosystem in nature is a good example of innate at work. Let's take, for example, the Seine River that flows through Paris. In the 1970s, the river was incredibly polluted. It was so toxic that fish could not live in it, people could not swim in it, and of course, it was undrinkable. They had a moratorium and decided to stop putting pollutants into the river. They knew that if they removed the interferences, the ecosystem would re-establish itself. Over time, the Seine cleaned. It cleaned with its own regeneration once the interference was stopped. The ecosystem's innate forces were allowed to work. Then the Seine became a blue, sparkling river once again. So we have a sick little cell, a dysfunctioning cell with interfered innate forces. This little cell can only withstand minimal universal forces. We've seen situations where people have been so sick that they can't tolerate even the normal Western lifestyle. They have to go into the countryside to live where there are no pollutants and where the effects of modern society with its plastics and petrochemicals and so forth do not irritate them. This is an extreme example, but with the cells functioning at this level, there is such a small amount of innate force that the body succumbs to the normal, universal force. We see it every day with people who can't tolerate certain foods and environmental stresses, allergies and the like. So they isolate themselves from the normal stresses in order to survive. As the cell starts to regain vitality, the innate forces increase and we can withstand more universal forces. The cells of our body, on average, take about 12 weeks to go through one generation. As successive generations of cells are born in the presence of a more vibrant body, the tolerance for universal forces gets stronger and stronger. so that you can see over time the body has an amazing ability to regenerate from a cellular level. Let's look at the same scenario within another ecosystem, a forest. The loggers come in and cut down the native forest and then replant. It doesn't just take 1 week or 2 weeks or 2 years to re-establish. Steadily, that forest starts to regenerate, and 30, 40, 70, 80 years later, we find the ecosystem has re-established itself to its former glory. So what's the chiropractor's responsibility in all of this? What we are responsible for is to give adjustments over time at a regular frequency to teach your body new habit patterns and guide you through your unwinding. When your body has been used to being in a certain position over time, functioning in a certain way, it is interpreted by your body as normal. So our job is to teach your body a new normal. We are also responsible to provide you with resources so that you can make necessary changes. Information, discussion classes like this, the lending library, pamphlets and the like will assist you to take on more responsibility for your health. Your responsibility is this: to ensure that the universal forces that you are subject to are kept within your body's ability to cope. As your body starts to regenerate and function at a higher level, then you will be able to tolerate more in the way of universal forces. Physical, chemical and mental stressors will be more easily dealt with as your body functions with more ease. Look at the way children can adapt to the stresses in their world. They easily bounce back from falls, they express themselves in mentally upsetting circumstances and move on. They get toxic foods like too much red cordial at the birthday party. They vomit and go back and play. They are flexible and take life in their stride. Your responsibility with the universal forces is on 3 levels. Chemical, through diet and environment. Diet, making sure that you give yourself nutritious food plus appropriate supplementation to facilitate the cleansing and rebuilding process. Environment, making sure you're in an environment that supports a healthy lifestyle. Mentally, making sure that your thoughts and beliefs serve you and are useful to you and those around you. Physically, regular adjustments, committing to the regular adjustments that your body needs in order to take on these new habit patterns. Adequate rest, exercise, and to pay attention to ergonomics, that is, the way that you sit and stand at work and play. Your sleeping position is most important, as you spend a significant portion of your life asleep. We will talk more about the importance of these during regenerative care. The goal of regenerative care is to facilitate the repair and remodelling of cells, tissues and organs by optimising the nerve system function. During this time, we do progressive exams and reports of findings every 12 weeks. The chiropractic exams and associated tests will be quite familiar to you by now. At any point along the way, at any of these junctures, you certainly have the option of discontinuing care. As we get an optimisation of the structure and function of your body, then you are eligible for optimisation care. As we said before, only about 40% of people are actively involved in being healthy and improving their lives. You are part of that 40%, and we really acknowledge you and congratulate you. The question is, are you committed to the journey? Are you willing to do what it takes? We thank you for choosing our practice for your chiropractic care. By committing yourself to regenerative care, you will learn so much more about your health and your life, and you will receive more tools to enable you to continue this exciting journey of discovery of the inner potential of you.